We did believe that he had decided, I don't care what it costs, I don't care what happens to UA or at UA, I'm making my movie and it's going to be the greatest movie I know how to make. And once we decided that was it, we then realized we were truly in trouble. Because then you're saying, Michelangelo, put down your paintbrush. And he's saying, make me.
By mid-July 1979, Michael Cimino had burned through hundreds of thousands of feet of film and was almost 200% over his original budget estimate. The futility of trying to push, cajole, or beg Cimino into moving faster was now obvious, even to the most inexperienced UA executive. More drastic options were in order.
I said to him, I know what you think of me and how ill-equipped and diminished I am as an executive, so how about this? You have told me about how wonderful Barry Spikings is in EMI and how good they were on Deer Hunter. How about if Andy Obeck and Transamerica let me, I'm gonna call Barry Spikings and I'm gonna offer him half this movie for whatever it costs to complete. And, if Andy lets me do it, domestic distribution, so that when you get all the awards for this movie, you don't have to see any of us, you can stand back up there with him, your pal. What do you say? If he says yes, I'm out. You shoot the damn thing however you and he decide. If he says no, you shut the up and finish this movie the way I just told you. If Spikings came, saw footage, saw the books, didn't want it.
And then the question was, fire him. Bring in somebody else to finish this movie in which we have by this time spent $15 or $20 million and don't have a movie to show for it.
How? There was nothing without Michael. Michael wrote it. He conceived the whole project. Every single minutiae on that film was Michael. Yet everybody would have walked, I'm sure. I mean, there'd have been a laughing stock. I mean, they were ultimately anyway, but they had a chance this way. There was no chance the other way.
Having exhausted all other options, UA finally decided it had no choice but to fire Cimino's producer and take over the day-to-day operations on Heaven's Gate.
We said Joanne is no longer producing the picture. United Artists is now producing the picture, and you, Michael Cimino, are our employee. And as our employee, we can tell you, these are the rules. You violate those rules, and you are in breach of contract. And when you are in breach of contract, you lose all of the things that you want. The most important issue was, if you violate enough of these provisions of the contract, now that you are an employee of United Artists, not a partner, but an employee, you will lose final cut. And this was the issue that was paramount beyond any other issue for Michael.
It had taken nearly 3 months and $18 million before UA canceled the blank check they had given Cimino. In its place, the studio imposed a new production schedule and told Cimino that they would not spend one penny more than $25 million. Cimino protested, but it didn't matter. He had no choice but to live within UA's constraints. If he didn't, he'd lose the power to make his film, lose final cut. And so, he sped up. By late August, Cimino was actually 2 days ahead of UA's new schedule and on target to meet the revised budget. But it was too late. The real damage of Cimino's obsessions had already been done. Les Capet was a freelance writer living in Montana. Early in production, he had requested access to the Heaven's Gate set. He was told that Heaven's Gate was closed, that Michael Cimino was not allowing any press. Rebuffed as a journalist, Capet applied for a job as an extra and worked on the movie for 2 months. He got $30 a day for his troubles and his story. Gapay's article, which first appeared in the Los Angeles Times, painted a picture of excess and incompetence. Extras were fainting, horses were hurt, and there were all those takes of the same scene over and over again. Heaven's Gate, as Gapay told it, was a farce, not a masterpiece. The press loved it. The story, or some version of it, ran in almost every media outlet in the country, and many outside it. Everyone seemed downright gleeful at the prospect of this Oscar-winning director failing spectacularly.
It created an environment where people were waiting for not a masterpiece, something else. And that just kept rolling and feeding on itself.
Here we go. Stand by and roll, please.
Bad press, an angry studio, all of it might have cowed a less confident director. But for Michael Cimino, none of it registered. He just kept working, undeterred, at the same crushing pace.
Action!
In late August, 60 days after production was supposed to be finished, filming began on the climactic battle sequence. Cimino supposedly was now bound to UA's new schedule and budget. Still, he shot what and where he wanted, even if that meant traveling 3 hours each way to the only set he would approve.
Was that what it was? 3 hours each way? Oh, God, I can't remember. I blocked it out, but that was tough. Yeah.
You get up at 3:30 in the morning with a and you'd go and get in these vans, and you knew how to be there really quick so that you were one of the first ones in and would get the optimum spot to be in.
Everybody had their spot in the van, and everybody would show up in the hotel lobby with pillows and blankets, and you'd get in the van, and everybody would go to sleep for 2 hours.
And most of it was dirt roads. So it was like bam, 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 bam for hours.
It was a real force march. The lunches were, I didn't even eat. I would go straight in there and go to sleep in that little honey wagon there and sweat like a trooper, you know, and go back to work.
I don't know how long we shot those battle scenes, but it was frightening, some of those things. Each time, I would just pray to God, you know, I wasn't going to get hurt or anybody else was going to get hurt, and we would just go, yeah, charge, and just full blast. I mean, it was exhilarating, but even in a real battle, you don't, go recock and keep doing it over and over.
You'd race madly around in this circle at a dead gallop as fast as you can, and firing and firing and firing. And we would do that for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So you've got all this noise and chaos, they're firing back. You have wagons in the mix, dust so thick you can hardly see.
The extras especially, I think, were quite scared, because there are these 130-year-old, buckboards, whether they were real or replicas, careening around. And, it's not like driving a Hummer. It's scary. There were times when there was coming down, I suppose, from Michael through the ADs of like, we're going again, faster, louder, bigger, more.
On September 29, 1979, filming finished on the battle sequence. 3 days later, principal photography on Heaven's Gate ended. Michael Cimino had shot a record 1.5 million feet of film, 225 hours of footage, and spent in excess of 100% over his approved budget. But at least everyone thought the worst was finally over. They had no idea.